I'd like to welcome everybody out to the Regional Growth Committee for May 15th. Looks like the time is now 9:18. We'd like to do introductions around the tables if we can, and in here, and then we'll do introductions on the Zoom meeting. So let's start down at the far right here. Thank you.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC staff.
Trisha Sharma, Federal Highways.
Allison Stroud, Sandy City Council.
She was going to pass me the mic. Brandon Stanger, Clinton Mayor.
Good morning, Monica Zoltansky, Sandy Mayor.
Carlton Christensen, Board of Trustees for the Utah Transit Authority.
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
Andrew Gruber, WFRC. Good morning.
Bob Dandoy, Roy City.
Ted Knowlton, Deputy Director at WFRC. I'm the RGC point of contact.
Laureen Kamalu, a Davis County elected commissioner, but here I represent all counties, Utah Association of Counties.
Good morning, Beth Holbrook, Utah Transit Authority.
Good morning, Christy Overson, Mayor of Taylorsville.
Good morning, Bryce Bird with the Division of Air Quality.
Troy Walker, Draper City Mayor.
Hi, Andrea Olson with UDOT.
Brooke D'Souza, Sandy City Council.
John A. Nardone with WFRC.
Tim Watkins, WFRC.
Byron Head, WFRC.
Kimberly Bell, Sandy City.
Chandler Butler, UTA.
Taylor Jensen, West Jordan.
Jennifer Jastrzemski, Draper City.
Kelly Chalberg, Draper City.
Good morning from the WFRC Analytics team, Bert Granberg.
And Che Mosqueda, Long Range Planning, WFRC.
Thank you. Internally, let's go ahead. We'll go around those individuals who are Zooming in. Let me just read off a couple of names, and then if you can introduce yourself. Looks like we got Reed and Sherry, and then Julie. If you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Reed Ewing, the University of Utah, City and Metropolitan Planning. Good morning.
Good morning, Shree Wood, South Salt Lake Mayor.
Julie Bjornstad, Senior Transportation Planner for the Long Range Planning Group at WFRC.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor, looks like Pippin, and we got, looks like Sharon, and looks like we have, is it Joni?
Yeah. Mayor Phippen, Far West City.
Okay.
Karen Bolos, Weaver County Commission.
Yeah, the rest of you are on here are here. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a lot of things to cover.
Mayor, I also want to note that we have several other members of the public who are joining us online and watching, and we welcome everybody.
Thank you. So with that then, let's go ahead and get started. We do have one action item up front. That action item is then the approval of the minutes from the March 20th, 2025 meeting, Regional Growth Committee. Any comments, questions, or concerns associated with those minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, we now have a motion then to approve the minutes from March 20th. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions? Okay, all in favor to approve those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Thank you. This is the public comment period. If you'd like to make public comment in this meeting, please take a moment and share your name and the organization you represent, and we'll turn some time over to you. Anybody here? Anybody online? Okay. Seeing nobody online and nobody here, we'll go ahead and move on from our public comment period. The chair report, I want to talk just briefly about the corridor preservation update. As you may have remembered in previous meetings, we had a really good, robust discussion about corridor preservation. As we get into the regular agenda, okay, as part of my chair report, I've invited Ted to provide an update on the corridor preservation discussion that we had in the March 20th meeting. but equally important, if you will, a discussion that took place between experts from the counties that took place after that. So Ted, go ahead and lead us in this conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this will be brief. It was a really organic and interesting conversation that we had at the Regional Growth Committee last time about corridor preservation. There was a lot of interest in that. What we did in the time between the two meetings is we met with key staff from Davis, Weber, and Salt Lake County that oversee their corridor preservation efforts. And we explored the differences between the counties. They got to know each other. It was a really just sort of useful exchange of best practices and creating new relationships around the region that relate to corridor preservation. Super helpful. That group did not feel like it was important to go beyond that. They are going to start reaching out to each other and swapping notes. After that call, we staffed at WFRC did a check-in with Commissioner Khumalo and Mayor Dandoy, literally on both sides of me. And just to follow up and see if anything else seemed to make sense with regard to Regional Growth Committee and corridor preservation. It would certainly be, I know that both of them would be interested in any reaction around the room, but kind of felt like on balance with the staff level conversation that maybe we had improved shared understanding and kind of created new connections about corridor preservation, and maybe that's all we need to do for now. And I'll certainly invite Mayor Dandoy and Commissioner Khumalo if they want to join in. But the main thing is just wanted to close the loop with you since there was so much interest in the last meeting.
Thank you, Ted. Commissioner, you have some thoughts?
Just the fastest thing. So I just read the code. And that was fantastic to read the code about the corridor preservation funds. And so it wasn't representing all counties that I wanted to understand better. It was truly for Davis County. And so just, you know, when all else fails, just go read that code. So that was good.
Yeah, I think that, and we appreciate the opportunity for the discussion. These are really important to us and find out what commonalities we do have, and it was a good conversation. I too, Commissioner, went to our expert in the county level in Weber County and had a really good conversation in terms of how it works within the county, and was somewhat impressed with some things I did not know. And so if you have questions or are concerned about corridor preservation, please contact your representative. If you're not sure who that is, certainly the team that has been assembled can provide that to you. But the key would be is that if there's some real interest in that particular topic, please contact your representative in individual counties. They really have an idea and a plan, and they seem to be executing that plan rather well.
Mr. Chair, we can send out the contacts on corridor preservation from each of the WFRC counties in the follow-up to this meeting, if that's helpful. And I think that
I think that'd be perfect. Comment.
Yeah, just a comment. I was thinking in regards to our long-range plan that doesn't flow into the regional transportation plan, but it would good for us as an organization to give to those contacts what that plan is, because as they're looking at corridor preservation on the local bus service side, like even in a frequent bus network, for them to understand and to think about that as they're, you know, securing those corridors. The reality going forward, most of these corridors are going to be joint use corridors. And I think maybe having I don't know if WFRC could do this, but you know, having a central repository so that map is really apparent to anybody who's looking at that issue, even if it's not coordinated as far as how they allocate their actual funds.
So if you guys can maybe just answer with a minute. The biggest question is why are the counties setting money aside for state roads? Why is the county paying for the state's preservation? Was that answered?
Well, it's interesting that from the information I received from Weber County is that they do it and they've been doing it for a long time. It's the policy of Weber County to provide that. Not all of the funding that's used for corridor preservation is targeted to UDOT projects, state projects, federal projects, or funded projects, but there is a bunch of it. And I didn't know that, much like the conversation we had on the 20th. I didn't understand in terms of how the individual counties approach that. But I will tell you, Weber County does provide some of the funding to support statewide projects. And the best I can tell, I think if you look at your individual counties, you'll find that they're probably doing very much the same, different approaches, maybe even maybe a different set of rules they operate in, but they understand it, they work it, and it does not surprise me now that if other counties, in fact, also use these local corridor preservation funds to fund state projects. Yeah, and I didn't know that, Mayor, and now I understand a little better. Any other comments, questions on that topic? Okay. And thank you, Ted, your recommendation. Maybe we can send that out in case people want to reach out to their contact points and get an understanding. And Trustee, I think your point would be is that now having a contact to all of them could be very helpful if in fact there might be variances that could be important to your efforts to make sure that there's continuity in terms of how we address from county to county as we move the UTA project. So great comment. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you move on, if I could just acknowledge we've been joined by a few other members of the committee since we did our introductions. We've got Blaine Fackrell from Morgan County, Nicole Bordeaux from UTA, Julie Fulmer from Vineyard, Lauren Palmer from Harriman, Laura Hansen from GOPB, and I think I saw Senator Harper sneak into the back there. Senator, you're always welcome at the table if you'd like to join us as well. He's here wearing his Taylorsville hat, though, today, I think.
Andrew, thank you for bringing that attention. Welcome again, okay, to the meeting. We got some good information to share, and we certainly appreciate any input you'd like to provide. Number 4 on this topic deals with the Wasatch Choice Vision. Specifically, we're going to talk at A, which is the 2025 Wasatch Choice Vision Land Use Update. Today, we will hear from Tim Watkins. He's the community planner for Wasatch Front Regional Council, who will share the update land use component of the Wasatch Choice Vision. The land use of the Wasatch Front Choice Vision reflects the framework each community has on how and where they have wanted to address growth. And if you remember, we were involved in that as an individual communities and collectively in terms of help updating this. So this is really important. To be honest with you, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, committee members. It's great to be with you, and I'm happy to share with you the process for updating the Wasatch Choice Vision land use map. I will touch on 3 key items. First, how we have worked to achieve a high level of buy-in from all the communities across our region. And second, why the land use layer is important. And 3, how it informs the long-range transportation plan. And just as a note, the land use vision update will occur as a level 1 amendment, and that will be covered in a later presentation, the specifics of the level 1 amendment. So just an overview of the Wasatch Choice Vision. There are 3 primary elements or sections, the first being the local land use aspirations. That's the focus of my presentation today. Oh, need to advance, and thank you for that. There we go. And second is the regional transportation plan. We're working towards a 2027 update, and that's very much informed by the land use aspirations. And third component to the vision are the desired economic opportunities. So the Wasatch Choice Vision coordinates our community's land use aspirations and desired economic opportunities with regional transportation improvements. So here is the current Wasatch Choice Vision showing the land uses that were last updated in 2023 with regional transportation. The vision provides a shared framework for communities and our region to preserve and enhance quality of life, even as we face significant growth. As you note the bright colors, kind of more the orange and the reds, these are centers. And the map features regionally significant centers and other land uses that will impact regional transportation demand. And so here's a kind of a menu of the four general categories of centers across the region. You see neighborhood center, city centers, a little more intensive, urban centers, and then the largest being the metro centers. These are regionally significant land uses, and there are others that are regionally significant that are very important as well. Employment districts, industrial districts, and of course, a reference to park and public spaces is significant as well. Centers are emphasized in the vision as they require a significant level of planning and coordination and partnerships to implement. And they provide very significant local and regional benefits. They absorb growth, and mixing uses in centers, excuse me, helps to create focused activity where there can be more access to opportunities, absorbing growth, and then creating more transportation choices, whether it be driving, transit, walk, or bike. So to update the Wasatch Choice Vision land use map, went through an exercise with 8 workshops held across the region, across our MPO region ranging from Brigham City, the north, and Bluff Dell to the south, and Salt Lake County. And so here are some of the action images from these workshops and a few examples of the numerous land use and transportation comments we received on the workshop maps from each community. I will note that our long-range planning team has also been evaluating over 1,000 transportation projects based on these community workshop comments and stakeholder outreach across the region. And at the conclusion of this presentation, I'll touch on and summarize how the land use update will help to test transportation ideas this summer for a draft preferred scenario that will look out 30 years to the year 2055. So back to the land use vision update. Following the workshops, we here at WFRC work closely with city and county staff and then with elected officials to confirm and update these regionally significant land use boundaries and characteristics. So here's an example showing the online mapping coordination between WFRC and city planners to make sure that the workshop map comments were being interpreted correctly. And here's a result of collecting each community's land use vision. It is a 2025 vision map update that looks out across a 30-year horizon to the year 2055. And again, note the brighter colors in the map across the region, and these are the most current vision for centers, and this is a continued common theme across the region. And so here's a sample of the Wasatch Choice Vision Update Mapping app. And it's provided communities with a comparative slider between the current 2023 vision on the left and then can compare to the 2025 updates on the right. And it is amazing to see each community's effort to plan for the future, and it's reflected and coordinated as a shared vision for the future.
Tim, one of the things that is also good to note about this process of reaching out to each community in the workshops is we always handle and work with Morgan and Tooele counties a little differently because they're a bit more rural. Their time frame is not necessarily dovetailed with the regional transportation plan, and both of those counties have either undergone recently a general plan process or they're kind of in the middle of that. So we're working with both of those counties as well, and they're very much part of the Wasatch Choice Vision fabric as well.
Thank you, Ted. Yes.
And while we're interjecting, so what we're looking at on the screen right now, this is, it looks like the center of Salt Lake County, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. That'd be embarrassing if I got that wrong. And this map is available online for anybody to look at and dig into and see the slider for what the updates are back and forth from the previous versions of what you said your land use would be to the updated versions of land use and center. So this is available for anybody to look at, and Jordan already dropped a link in the chat to it.
That's right. Thank
Thanks.
you. And as you navigate and explore the changes, you'll see in some cases the same center area or land use area, but you might see a change from a city center to an urban center, for example, or you'll see brand new boundaries. And so it's very interesting to see as communities anticipate growth and plan for it being reflected here in a regional shared format. And if you're just starting a general plan or in the middle of one, then there will be an opportunity a couple more years to do another land use update. All right. So centers will vary across communities, although we've categorized into 4 general types or levels of intensity. They're going to be custom to each community. And these are some examples we've recently had produced and shared with communities to provide some of the examples of how the different land uses come together, mixed together. Here's an image of a smaller scale neighborhood center, for example. You see the housing and the jobs and the retail oriented around a public space. Here's a depiction of a city center, a little more intense, up to 4 stories. Again, jobs, housing, retail, and transit all working together around a central gathering space. And here's a depiction of an urban center. This might provide more of a regional draw to events and activities and jobs. But centers collectively, they help to absorb growth and take pressure off of the areas we want to preserve, and they do support transportation choices. All right, so the updated land use vision will help us to understand where communities want to grow and how they would like for their current and future residents to connect to future jobs. And it will serve as the basis to forecast future population and jobs. And that will be looked at with the transportation ideas while a preferred transportation scenario is being developed this summer for communities and the public to review this fall in the next round of workshops and public engagement activities. So thanks for the time and welcome any discussion or questions.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I just want to build on what Tim said at the end. So I think it's almost useful to think of where you all as communities say you want to have growth occur, right? We have this growth challenge. The where and the how that growth occurs, well, so goes transportation. And that's the whole coordination here. That's part of the basic idea of the Wasatch Choice Vision. And you remember these workshops. The workshops were not just what's your land use concept? It was also what are your transportation ideas? And we iterated on those. So communities were thinking very much about, well, what are my ideas as I look ahead? How does that relate to our thoughts as a community about land use and transportation? Oh, but wait, let's have that conversation with the communities that are next to us as well. And I just think it's useful to reflect on the coolness, if I can put it so kind of lamely, of that collaborative process. And we go through these steps, we listen, we circle back to communities, we get ready to drill down into the transportation details. We're seeing this collaborative process unfold. And we want to just pause and say, look, we're listening. This is building on that promise and that spirit of collaboration. The whole idea here is we can build a better plan through collaboration. So I hope you can see our excitement about it and the reason why we wanted to just, while those workshops were even fresh in your mind just from last fall, to say, look, this is what happened to that and this is where we go from here.
Okay, great comments. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so in addition to being passionate about the transit side of all of this, this year I'm fortunate enough to be chair of ULI Utah, which is the Urban Land Institute, and we were just at the spring conference just a couple days ago. 36 people from Utah actually attended that conference, and one of the things that I thought was so incredible about this is that this discussion is not happening in a vacuum. What we are doing in the public sector is actually being very, very much watched and understood in the private sector. So the majority of people that were in the private sector that attended. But one of the things that they focused on is the fact that when we look at these core investments, and as we have outlined them, and there's this general consensus, there's not a 100% consensus, but that's part of the process. But to understand and know that the markets are really, everyone is looking at it from the same perspective, really increases confidence within the private sector to say, you know what, this is of value to what we are doing. And I think that one of the things that I found as a quote that I just thought was incredible is that no one is saying no. We're all just trying to get to yes. And that to me really resonates with what you guys are doing here today as WFRC, what we are all doing here in our respective roles. And I just wanted to affirm that there are a lot of people looking at the Utah market and seeing how collaborative and how thoughtful some of these long-range plans are. So just wanted to make that comment. Thank you so much.
Great comment. Thank you. Anything else for Tim? Tim, thank you. Okay, great rundown. And it's refreshing, Andrew, to kind of see when we spend the time working in these workshops that it's manifesting itself so quickly into your programming. The things that we have done in my city specifically recently are now reflective. And it's now become the foundation and how it correlates. And to me, to your point, Trustee, me and Brandon, who happen to share a border together, the things that are happening in my neighboring city, okay, are in concert, okay, with what we're trying to do. So you get that continuity that's so important in our business, and we appreciate that. So thank you. It's really working.
Thanks for saying that, and I'll just emphasize a point that Tim and Ted both made. This, the updates to land use reflecting what the dialogue with all of your communities, input from the private sector, as Trustee Holbrook is saying, reflecting the great work that your communities have done in general plans, in station area plans, all capturing here in the updated version of the Wasatch Choice Vision. We are such a dynamic environment in Utah, growing and changing so fast that it's essential, and part of the core to our work is making sure that the land use plans are current, reflecting reality now and also reflecting the desires and possibilities going ahead to the future. And I just want to emphasize again, this is a key midstream update. And then this is critical because it forms the land use projections, form the basis for the development of the regional and Utah's unified transportation plans. So they are the basis on which we will then determine what investments in our infrastructure are most critical, and it all ties together. So that will be the next stage in this process, is moving then with the updated land use to focusing more on transportation, but the land use and the transportation tie together closely. That's why one of the reasons that it's so important that we do this work and that we get it right.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Ewing, I believe you have your hand up. You'd like to make a comment, please.
Yeah, thank you. We at the university have done a lot of research on polycentric development. That's the term that's used to describe a multi-centered region. Right now we have downtown Salt Lake City. Sugar House is emerging as a center. Daybreak downtown will eventually be a center. What we found is that looking at about 100 regional transportation plans and land use visions, is that polycentric development, where centers are connected by high quality transit, provide numerous benefits. Vehicle miles traveled are down in centers. If you look at households living in centers, they don't drive nearly as much. Walking, that healthy form of travel, is much higher for households living in centers, and transit use is greater for those households that live in centers. So there are transportation benefits to polycentric development, and 90% of the plans we looked at, and we looked at over 100 across the United States, now adopt this as their paradigm for growth. Multi-centered development with a hierarchy of centers, just like we have, and high-quality transit and transportation generally, but transit in particular, connecting the centers is the dominant paradigm for the United States now in regional planning. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, thank you for that comment and insight. Thank you. Commissioner, you have a comment.
Yeah, Dr. Ewing, I learn a lot from you. It's an awesome, awesome statement, polycentric planning. I'm going to add that to my vocabulary. But I just wanted to say, I think I've said it before, but it just bears repetition. We all know it, but you know, the most complex problems, which homelessness, housing, you know, all of these things that are big, giant for us in Utah and in other places, like the only way you make progress is with the collaborative approach. So I just, it's great. I hope we can keep getting there and build on this.
And providing choices to people and for transportation and also housing options. And that's embodied, commissioners, as you're noting, in the Wasatch Choice Vision. And I'll just note, Professor Ewing mentioned examples of centers, downtown Daybreak in South Jordan, and that gives me the excuse to note Mayor Dawn Ramsey, WFRC Chair, is with us online, as is Kendall Thomas from Tooele County, and Ivan Marrero from the Federal Highway Administration. Just want to welcome our other committee members that have joined us since we did introductions.
I'm glad you were able to pull that off, okay? And thank you for
Mr.
your
Chair,
input.
one more
Okay,
comment
great
here.
comments. And Tim, again, thank you for leading the conversation, okay? Oh, please, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What's impressed me so much about this planning process, being new to this in my first term, that's, you know, now 3.5 years as mayor, is how important it is to establish trust with the local communities. And so when people get wind of, you know, a visionary 50-year plan, it kind of harkens back to, you know, western expansion. The railroad would come in, and then that's where development would be around the rail lines, right? And so when you set the transportation first, that really drives development. And now today, we are matured into our transportation networks. We have new regional assets that require more nuanced planning and connectivity. And so what's impressed me so much about the planning process in Sandy City, and then our station area planning that not only included Sandy stops, but also Draper stops as the regional connectivity, but the invitation and empowerment of local voices so that they are heard and to see ideas incorporated into a plan that is then adopted 12 months or 18 months later. It's very satisfying and reassuring, and you just get so much more quality when local solutions are elevated. And match that with the expertise of long-range planners and engineers and transportation specialists and social psychologists, that all of it that goes into the planning. There's no other framework that I exist in as mayor that brings so many resources together to really create transformative and elevated transportation solutions. And speaking of Mayor Ramsey, I went out to the ballpark last night from Sandy, and we definitely need to solve the east-west connection between Sandy and South Jordan, Broncho. So I'd like to elevate and escalate that planning section. But yeah, so congratulations to all the leadership here at WFRC and Regional Transportation Plan, and also so many nice images of Sandy in the plan itself. Notice.
Great comments, Mayor. Thank you so much. Okay, any other comments? Okay, let's go ahead and we'll move on to B in our agenda. And this is an action item, amendment to number 3 to the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. Now, Julie Stern said, where are you, Julie? Oh, that's right. You said she was on. Senior Transportation Planner for Wasatch Regional Council will present the proposed amendment number 3 to the 2023-2050 Regional Transportation Plan, which includes 11 projects that were requested. The Regional Growth Committee is the steering committee to the RTP. We know that the RTP receives considerable review before being adopted. Regardless, changing circumstances sometimes warrant a change, and I think we're going to see some of that. So I'm going to turn the time over to Julie. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You can see the screen, the presentation, correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, today I'll be presenting Amendment 3 to the 2023 to 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. I'll briefly review the amendment process, then provide a high-level overview of the projects in this amendment, and then ask you to open up a brief public comment period for the level 2 projects, as well as approval of those projects. It should be noted that the RGC technical advisory committees, primarily made up of your planners, reviewed all of these project requests at their April 16th meeting and made a unanimous recommendation that the RGC approve the level 2 projects. As a reminder, a complete list of all the projects I'll go over today is included in your packet if you like additional details on any project. So reminder about our RTP process overview. The Regional Transportation Plan is developed on a 4-year cycle. It has a financial plan and is fiscally constrained. It conforms to applicable air quality controls, goals, and budgets. And then it ties back to the future land use plans that Tim just mentioned in the Wasatch Choice Vision. We divide the RTP into phases, each about a decade long, both for identifying when projects are needed, but also when funding is expected to be available between now and 2050. So this is what I'll mean when I say fiscal constraint phase or needs phase. It's these 10-year buckets. So like the chair mentioned, we do amendments to already adopted RTPs periodically when adjustments are needed based on funding, changing needs, outcomes of studies. And when those adjustments are needed before the adoption of the next RTP, so in this case, 2027, we amend a currently adopted RTP. We've ensured that the amendment process maintains the rigor of the planning process. So this includes a review of fiscal constraints, public input, and air quality conformity. And the chart on the right shows the amendment process for each level of amendment, with details about how it gets approved, required comment periods, and air quality determination. So we have 3 levels. Level 1 is staff modifications, and these are reviewed by the chair and vice chair of RGC, and then approved by the WFRC executive director. These do not require a public involvement or public comment period. And then level 2 board modifications are reviewed by the tax and then RGC, and then approved during an RGC meeting. And then level 3 projects are full amendments. So these are very large, impactful projects. And these include a new air quality conformity memo, a 30-day public comment period, and then review by the tax, RGC, and finally approval by council. All projects, regardless of where they fall into these levels, are reviewed by an interagency consultation team, which includes UDOT, UTA, FHWA, and the Department of Air Quality. And then fiscal constraints are reviewed by FHWA. Those yellow boxes are where we currently are in the process. So you can see that the level 1, we are informing RGC, and on level 2, we are asking for public comment and approval at an RGC meeting. So you might be wondering what projects fall into each one of these levels. And so each amendment level has a variety of projects. Most are tied to federal regulation and requirements. I say most because there's no federal regulation or requirement for active transportation or land use. So those are in level 1. And then transit and roadway projects really depend on the type of project and their impact to air quality conformity. So today we have 11 staff modification, 11 total projects. 6 are level 1 staff modifications and 5 are level 2. The 6 level 1 staff modifications include the Wasatch Choice land use layer, which was just mentioned by Tim, 3 active transportation requests from local communities, and 2 mobility hub requests from the University of Utah. These projects were coordinated with Mayor Dandoy and Commissioner Kamalu, and will be approved by the WFRC executive director following this meeting. And then the 5 level 2 board modifications are all roadway projects from local communities. Okay, so the level 1 amendments are mainly in Salt Lake County with the exception of that regional Wasatch Choice Vision land use update. And I won't cover this in detail because you just heard about the process and about the updates from Tim, but I just wanted to remind you that we are happy to help you amend them, any other future Wasatch Choice land use updates into the Wasatch Choice Vision as they come up. Okay, so now the remaining 5 level 1 requests. The first is 4000 West Bike Lane from West Valley City, who received County the First Class Highway Project funds to improve 4000 West and build a bike lane between 3100 South and 4700 South. And this amendment would update that project's phase fiscal constraint to phase 1. The second amendment is also from West Valley City. They received County the First Class Highway Project funds to construct a side path on 62nd South between SR 111 and Mountain View Corridor. And this is in conjunction with a road project as well. And this amendment would update the project's phase 1 fiscal constraints, update the phased fiscal constraints to phase 1. West Jordan has received County of the First Class Highway Project funds as well to improve 1300 West and build a buffered bike lane from around 6200 South to 4B lane. And this amendment would update both the project's phase need and the phase fiscal constraint to phase 1. And then the next 2 amendments are mobility hubs on the University of Utah campus. Mobility hubs mean they're points for passengers to transfer between mobility services. They should be located in central nodes of activity to maximize efficiency. And the rationale for both of these mobility hubs is partly due to anticipated construction start dates that are now moving forward either through the adoption of some plans or in the next mobility hub, a new transit service. So this one is amending the South Campus Mobility Hub, which is located on the northwest corner of South Campus Drive and Campus Center Drive, so near the Huntsman Center. This is an existing project in the 2023 RTP, but would move the project up to phase 1 need and fiscal constraint from phase 2. The second mobility hub is in Research Park. This is located on Black Hawk Way. This project is not currently in the plan, so this proposed amendment would add a project under phase 1 need and phase 1 fiscal constraint. And this project is in coordination with the Davis-Salt Lake City Connector Bus Project, which runs adjacent to this proposed mobility hub. So those are the 6 projects from level 1. And as a reminder, these have been reviewed by the TAX, by the chair and vice chair of the RGC, and then will be approved after this meeting. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments about or questions about the level 1 projects before I move to the level 2 projects?
Julie, I'll just note one, Commissioner Fackrell, council member Fackrell asked Commissioner Fackrell, sorry. I always mix up because the Tooele and Morgan, in my view, relatively recently flipped from commission to council. And so, sorry, sometimes I always mix that up. It begins with a C. Anyway, asked the question, Julie, why is the I-84 interchange not on the lists? And I think this might actually be helpful, Julie, to explain. We have a handful of projects here, even though there are literally over 1,000 projects that are all in varying stages in the RTP. And I think the basic answer is that this is an amendment for projects that have notable changes that need to be made in the RTP now. And there will be, as we go through the overall RTP process leading towards the 2027 final update, there will be a lot of more changes and updates made, but these are ones that are needed now. Julie, can you address that more specifically, please?
Yes, Commissioner, are you talking about the I-84 interchange with US 89 or the I-84 interchange in Mountain Green?
Say that again, Julie.
I was wondering which I-84 interchange, the one that's in Mountain Green or the one with US 89? Mountain Green. Okay.
Mountain Green,
So
okay.
the Mountain Green interchange is not within the MPO area. So because of that, the plan that would include the Mountain Green and I-84 interchange would be UDOT's long-range transportation plan. And so we wouldn't, so these amendments are solely for the WFRC MPO planning area.
Julie, thank you. And that's also worth noting that in Morgan and Tooele, the official plan is the UDOT Long Range Transportation Plan. Andrea Olson from UDOT here. We work with Morgan and Tooele counties through the RTPOs, the Rural Transportation Planning Organizations. We help staff those. And then we work to make sure that important updates in those areas are incorporated in partnership with UDOT in the long range plan. And then ultimately, all of it goes into Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. And Commissioner Fackrell says, we need your support, and we're working that you got it, Commissioner. Thanks, Julie.
Okay.
You know what, we, thinking aloud and just being opportunistic, we, at WFRC and the Regional Growth Committee, we could inform you of any similar amendments to the UDOT plan that affect Morgan and Tooele, just so that that is shared as informational items to this body. So we're keeping track of that, even if you are not the body that is sort of making formal recommendations on that basis, if that would be helpful.
He says that will be good. Okay. So yeah, so there are 4 level 2 amendments in Salt Lake County and 1 level 2 amendment in Box Elder County. And these are the projects that I'm asking you to take action on today. So I'll walk through each project again and then open it up for discussion with you as RGC members. Ask for a brief public comment period and then ask for a motion for approval of these projects as part of Amendment 3 to the 2023 to 2050 RTP. So the first project is a West Valley project. The South Frontage Road new construction is a project that connects Parkway Boulevard to Beagley. I'm gonna phone a friend there in West Valley on how you pronounce that road. But this project connects, creates a new connection, will help enhance access to employment areas, and allows for more efficient travel adjacent to Mountain View Corridor. This project is recommended to be in needs phase 1 and fiscally constrained phase 1. The second project is also from West Valley. This is widening on 6200 South between SR 111 and Mountain View Corridor. That will widen the project from 3 to 5 lanes. This is in conjunction with that shared use path we mentioned earlier. And this will help increase mobility, enhances connection between 2 regionally significant corridors, and will help reduce delay in the area. This project received partial funding from the counties of the First Class Highway Project Fund. And so it's recommended to move into needed and fiscally constrained phase 1. In West Jordan is proposing an amendment for a new construction of 6700 West, connecting 8600 South to Old Bingham Highway. This project will be a 3-lane collector road with construction priority being that middle section between 90th South and New Bingham Highway. This project also received partial funding from the counties of the First Class, it received partial funding, but from the counties of the First Class Infrastructure Bank, so slightly different fund. And this project will enhance mobility, create a new connection in the area, and meet demands for future growth. So this project, because it has current funding, is also recommended and needs phase and fiscally constrained phase 1. Riverton is proposing an amendment on 2700 West. This is a widening project from 134th West South to Bangor Highway that will take the roadway section from 2 to 5 lanes. Riverton also received partial funding from the counties of the First Class Infrastructure Bank grant. And this project will help increase mobility, reduce delay, and also helps meet future growth in the area. And there's a potential active transportation project along this corridor as well. This project is also recommended to be in needs and fiscally constrained phase 1. And then our last level 2 request is from Brigham City. on 1200 West between Forest Street and Promontory Road. This would also be a widening that would take the roadway from 2 to 5 lanes. This is also an area of a large growth area. So this project helps improve that street connectivity, meet the needs of the future growth, and enhance travel in the area adjacent to I-15. This project received partial surface transportation program funding and is also recommended to move into need phase and fiscally constrained phase 1. Reed, you had a question about one of these projects?
Yeah, more of a comment. This dates back to the early days, my early days on the Regional Growth Committee, when we were meeting out beyond in the old office, beyond the airport, that widening projects, capacity projects generate their own demand. It's called induced demand or induced traffic. You know from the literature that when you widen roads, or particularly widen roads, it causes people to take longer trips to use that added capacity. Ultimately, in the long run, it generates urban sprawl. This is very different from transit projects, which generate centers, which we've talked about. So when we were voting on these things in the past, I would raise the question or the issue of induced travel, and we would then have a vote typically in favor of the road widening. But we should do it with full knowledge that roads tend to fill up with additional traffic that would not have occurred otherwise. And that's current thinking in the field, and that's best practice thinking. And how many of these projects, most of your projects don't have that effect, the bikeway projects, for example, but the road widening projects do. So you should know that within 10 years, these roads will fill up with traffic generated by the widening itself.
Thank you, Professor. Go ahead, Julie, you want to continue before we ask the committee to make their comments?
May I, Mr. Chair, just if it's okay, I'd love to make just a brief reaction to what Professor Ewing has said and has shared and has provided us with edifying information over a lot of years. And I'll just generally say that the work that we do, that all of the transportation agencies do, always aims to strike a balance in roadway projects, in transit projects, in active transportation projects, embodied in the heart of the Wasatch Choice Vision and the Unified Transportation Plan. It's providing transportation choices. I know that some, including Professor Ewing, would urge that the balance be somewhat different. And that is part of the art and the science of regional transportation planning and coordinating with land use. And I don't know that we always collectively get the balance in such a way that everybody agrees with it 100%, but we appreciate and acknowledge what Professor Ewing has noted. It's important for us to pay attention to. Thank you.
Great comments. Julie?
Yeah, I'll finish. Yeah, so per our RTP amendment process, I briefly mentioned this at the beginning. Projects that are up for an amendment go through a technical considerations process that's similar to the process that we use for developing the RTP and are tied directly to the Wasatch Choice Vision goals. So here are some of those considerations for each one of the level 2 amendments. And I won't read everything here, but in summary, the proposed projects in this amendment provide more and safer connectivity by increasing access to industrial areas, new growth areas, and existing residential areas, as well as improving our active transportation network with additional shared use paths and helping to build out our sidewalk network. All of these projects also reduce time spent traveling in a vehicle. So with that, both of the RGC technical advisory committees have reviewed these projects, like I mentioned at the April 16th meeting, recommended that RGC make a motion to approve the level 2 projects. So, Mr. Chairperson, pending any final questions or discussions by this committee, I would like to request that we open up the meeting for that public comment on amendment number 3 to the 2023 to 2050 RTP.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. Committee, do you have any comments or questions specifically to what you just been provided? Online or in the room? Okay. Seeing and hearing none then, do I have a motion then to open up a public comment period that we can discuss the board modifications for Amendment 3 to the 2023-2050 RTP?
I'm so sorry, just as a matter of process. We actually don't need to take votes to open a public, this is not a formal public hearing. And so if under our process, you can just welcome comments from the public without a vote to open and close a public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good. But in all fairness, all my years of experience simply says, when I do a public comment, I take a vote. But that's okay. I understand that's just my.
I mean, you can if you want to. There is a distinction in our work between a public comment and a public hearing. But
I like it.
I will defer to you, of course, Mr. Chair.
You're so funny. Is there any public comments relative to what we just heard? I'll open it up for public comments. Online? Okay. Then we'll close it to public comments, okay? And then be looking for a motion then that the Regional Growth Committee approve the Level 2 board modifications for the amendment of the number 3 to the 2023-2050 RTP. Do I have a motion then to approve what you've just heard?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion's approved. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Great rundown. Okay, we have another one we'd like to basically discuss. That's the planning, number C, the planning of emerging transportation technologies. Now, Shay, Mosqueda. I like that.
Perfect.
Okay. Transportation planner for the Wasatch Front Regional Council will present and seek feedback on the key focus areas of the process of the RTP, improving resilience in the face of rapid changing transportation technologies, shifting travel behaviors, and other internal forces or external forces that are shaping our transportation needs. Now, Shay will introduce these external forces with feedback, okay, by the RGCP. So please give us some of your thoughts on this conversation.
Thank you very much. Excited to talk to you guys about something that I'm passionate about that I find is very interesting, which is emerging technologies. So today, I'm going to go over a broad view of what we consider emerging technologies and external forces, which we consider a part or an update to our regional transportation plan. And we are interested in what you are all thinking and what your priorities are. So why do we prepare for emerging technologies? Emerging technologies are something that is very important as technology changes, and we try to account for this in the regional transportation plan. And we like to look at this and try and understand how new technologies and behavior changes will affect the transportation system. Some of these things can make long-range planning somewhat difficult, and that's due to the unpredictable nature of future trends and events. So a look in the past at all the different examples of how technology has changed from riding horses to the introduction of the car to working from home and autonomous vehicles and all the different things that we see, such as like Waymo and Uber. And when we look at these past examples, we know that as we move forward in different ways that we travel, that it's going to change both individually and as a society, and we know that it'll continue to evolve just as it has done in the past. So when I talk about emerging technologies, there's quite a few different things, but some of the bigger ones that we're seeing right now are autonomous vehicles, e-bikes and micromobility, advanced air mobility, and transit innovations. And I want to hit on one in particular, and that is advanced air mobility. There's been a lot of questions around it, and it's been quite a hot topic, and I am our WFRC's advanced air mobility guy. So as we go forward and as time evolves and we get deeper into advanced air mobility becoming a real item, there are various steps that need to be made. And that there's kind of a lot of questions on, and I've highlighted what I think are most of those items. So vertiports, cargo delivery, passenger flights, the planning portion, which is kind of that zoning and code, airspace control, and then energy infrastructure. So there's a lot that goes into that. And during the legislative session, there was Senate Bill 96, which is had UDOT create a policy toolkit, which will help with that planning and zoning, which we at WFRC will also be helping UDOT with. And then it also directed them to create a community outreach and education plan. So there's those two portions that are hopefully, as that gets created, which will start in sometime end of this summer, at least for the policy toolkit portion, that will help answer a lot of different questions that people have.
Jay, I can't let you mention some of this key legislation advancing the consideration of important technologies in our transportation without expressing appreciation for Senator Wayne Harper, who is and has been a leader in these areas for a long time. So Senator Harper, thank you very much.
Yes,
His role as chair of the Senate Transportation Committee and as a longtime member of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. So thank you, Senator.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been exciting and been enabled me to continue going down this advanced air mobility path. And so it's definitely a very fun and exciting new topic to cover. And then, so with all these different emerging technologies, there's one key thing to think about, that it will have impacts. There will be impacts to travel times, access to mobility, access to goods and services will change, safety will change, energy needs and energy infrastructure, different changes there will be something that'll be new. And then there'll also be changes in impacts to funding and revenue.
Jay, can I elaborate a little on that list while you have it up? The list goes on. I think there's always questions of how much is something adopted by how many people. Is it only the wealthy that can adopt it? Is there an impact on that? Mayor Zoltansky talked about how transportation shaped land use. Does it change the way we live and work and the form of our communities? That includes things like parking. What about air quality impacts? I mean, it kind of just goes on and on and on. And I'll just make one other point while I'm holding the conch here, which is that it's not that we're just passive in that. We can actually shape those. There's multiple different kinds of scenarios for how things impact us. And you know, we can make policies or think through how do we make the best of something and mitigate the worst of something.
Yes, very true. And I think there's that's kind of what, you know, this education and outreach is super important for, to create that awareness and then also enable our planners to be able to explore all those options, which is why we do it in the regional transportation plan. So there is a lot. I know I covered some of the kind of key ones, but there are a lot of different external forces and external policies that impact how the region travels. And some of these are impacting neighborhood mobility, and some of them are affecting transportation pricing. But one question that I wanted to ask everyone is, what emerging technologies or external forces do you believe that we should be prioritizing? What's important to you and your communities? And that's something that we want to get your feedback on. So I'll let anybody that wants to speak on that.
Okay, great question. Who'd like to make a comment? Trustee, please.
Yeah, no, two comments, at least I can think about. My late brother, Clayton Christensen, and I used to chat about this a lot. And I think one of the misnomers often in technology is that the advancement in technology itself will cause a higher use. And really, it's the technology that makes it simpler and easier to do. Because we don't sort of naturally go after something that's more complicated unless we're a geek nerd or something like that. And so the ease of use of stuff. So we're in the process, for example, of updating our fare system, but where you can just tap your credit card and go on the bus, not have to think about what that fare technology should be. And that actually will
Or tap your phone.
Phone
Right.
as well. Whatever your payment method is, it makes it easier and simpler to do. And I think, the technology, I love technology, don't get me wrong, but I think if we think about it in the technology of itself, it really doesn't cause that consumption, or what's often referred to as a market of non-consumption. And so it has to make it simpler and almost really cheaper to use, or people simply don't consume it in any large quantity. So I think as we frame that, we should ask you explore the technology, but as you think about how it integrates, we should sort of reframe that conversation. The other piece that I think is important too is how does it interface with the current network? So you could have a vertiport, but in most of our urban context, it's going to be really difficult to land something there. So you've got to have a connection point, right? And so there are probably some stations that might work, for example, in our system that would work as a good connecting point. But the reality is when you sort of get into that high rise or you go in up to the university, those kinds of things, you're probably going to have to transfer at some point onto another system. And so I'm not sure that we ought to think about as we do our regional transportation plan, that there may be another layer there and say, where are the prime connecting points? Sometimes you could do a point-to-point kind of thing, and I think that's important too. But a lot of times I think they're going to have to connect somewhere else on the system to get into where they really ultimately want to end. And I'm not sure that we've looked at that yet. And that's probably a harder nut to crack than the technology side because it's a land use factor. So just a couple of thoughts.
I think I hit on that. So I was at I was a part of a panel discussion in Palo Alto a couple weeks ago on advanced air mobility. And one of the topics that I brought up was the importance of that land use and transportation connection and looking at the corridors as a whole, and trying to enhance the current travel systems with these other adjacent technologies that we will have. Because like you're saying, there's not, it isn't maybe that it's not the one thing that's going to cure it, and there's no need to make it more difficult when it should be making it simpler. So simply looking at it as an additional offering and more multimodal choices for different types of transportation. So I really appreciate that point.
Yeah, great question to answer. Anybody else have a comment or question on this? Anybody online?
Commissioner Fackrell from Morgan County noted maybe we need to look at the air mobility for transportation needs into the cities versus around the cities. And I think what he's getting at is mobility from areas outside of urban areas to access rather than giving that as another option to driving in, let's say from Morgan County into Salt Lake, like here, for example. So within cities and then also accessing destinations from more rural or suburban areas.
Yes, I think that's a good point, especially with advanced air mobility because of the nature that it can go as the crow flies, and it isn't hindered necessarily by anything beyond, I guess there could be weather and wind, et cetera. But it does create much shorter trips, and that's kind of some of the idea, at least when we're looking into it, is that it should be an enhancement and make it easier, especially as those larger drones become approved and you can fit more passengers into those vehicles.
Great comment. Let me just, Senator Hopper, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, but certainly we in the public have been hearing a lot of things about air mobility and these kinds of programs that are unfolding. And we're hearing a lot of this either from the governor's office or certainly from our legislators. Would you mind just taking a moment and give us your perspective, since I think you're probably living on the leading edge of where we see these technologies unfolding?
So yeah, this is an up and coming thing, and unfortunately Utah has been leading the way
on advanced air mobility, partners with Wasatch Front, UDOT, industry stakeholders. What we've attempted to do is to go through and open things up so it is inclusive. We're not trying to do any type of prohibitions on this. We want to ensure that whatever technology now or 10 or 20 years down the road is welcome into Utah. We started out with vertiports, and there were some discussions about if I build a vertiport, does somebody else have to use it? We're going to and say, if it's on your private property, it's yours. But if it's in public space, it is a public use facility. So just like what we're trying to do with transportation and transit and both active and passive transit, we want transportation. We want to make sure that this is done. We're going to be having some seminars and some other things happening this summer where there'll be a lot of stakeholders again involved. We do have a lot of international folks that are looking to see what we're doing here in Utah. And the toolkit and the other things that have been highlighted will go through and enable us to continue to lead the way because we want this type of technology in here. I used to go through and talk about, well, we're going to go through and have this level of airspace for package and large parcel and then taxis. FAA's done away with that. It's going to be more of a open forum, and we're going to have to figure out how to go through and communicate technology to technology in order to make sure everything is safe and effective. But when you're talking about the city of Chicago, starting later this year or early next year, running air taxis from downtown Chicago to O'Hare or Midway, it's at our doorstep. So we just want to make sure that it's all welcome, and we'll continue to invite everybody to continue participating with us on this great effort.
Thank you, Senator. Great comments. Any other comments or questions for Shay? Anybody online? Okay, Shay, thank you so much. I will tell you personally, I get excited about this. And more importantly, if I could be very blunt, this is foundational to the Regional Growth Committee. We're talking about these kinds of emerging technologies, and then how do we as a broader community, adapt, prepare, plan, and get ourselves in a position by which we can bring it on and bring it on safe and become effective. And I think these kinds of conversations is where it begins, because it begins with this groups of people. And it's these groups of people are going to really make the difference, as we start the integration process. So here it is. 10 years from now, I think the governor said, he'd like to see, before the Olympics, he'd like to see air mobility become part of the Wasatch Front. Well, if that's the case, and that's the direction, then I'm going to say to you is we will see this emerging. And now the question is how we bed it down may have a lot to do with what we try to do within this committee. And certainly, Andrew, as we take these ideas now to the council, and we start to make this really happen. And it is down personal for us, but more importantly is we can do it right. And going back to Ted's point, if we do it right, then the integration is much easier, smoother, better. If we just haphazardly do it, well, my old cliche is simply this, Shay, we can either plan, for the future, or we'll react to it. And I certainly agree, and planning is by far the best. So thank you. Please comment.
Thank you. I just want to kind of bolster both your comment, Mayor, and Ted's earlier comments, and that, this is going to take a collaborative approach. And this is speaking more from a unified plan perspective, but we as partners are just starting the conversation of how do we look at those kinds of things? How do we look at these emerging technologies? How do we look at change in policy? The travel demand models that we all use don't do a very good job of addressing questions like that. So we're starting this conversation of what are some tools available to us that we could, start evaluating those different things. So I think it's right in line with what you're saying.
And just to put a finer point on this, Andrea's great point. How many trips will be absorbed by human trips, and freight trips will be absorbed by drones shifting from people having to drive or take transit? Nobody has an answer to that. And there isn't, as you noted, a model that successfully answers that either yet. So this is some of the challenge. We want to embrace the technology as we're going forward, but we also don't want to make an erroneous assumption that, oh, by the Olympics, X percentage of travel will be absorbed. Therefore, we don't have to make this investment in the roadway or in the transit or in the trail. And this is the balance. Well, it's all about balance. This is the balance that we're trying to strike as we embrace these technologies, but try to figure out what their impacts will be over time. So thank you, Andrea.
Great comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one quick concluding thought here. So this presentation that Shay put forward was fairly general, but with a little bit of a focus on advanced air mobility. And there's a lot of different technologies and impacts and nuances that we could talk about. And I think, we're interested to know, for you, Regional Growth Committee members, do you want to have this be kind of a recurring thing? What's your level of appetite? Are there particular components of this conversation that you're interested in more than not? And you can reply back to an email that'll come out after the meeting, or you can share a thought here before we move on to our next agenda item.
That's a good
Very
point. Comment?
interested. Very interested in having this, convenience, cost, privacy, alignment with existing technologies. So I don't know what the technologies are. That's not my expertise, but creating policies to, in anticipation of what consumer concerns will be, privacy concerns will be, constitutional concerns will be, that'd be a great point of start the discussion.
Please, trustee.
My apologies to add to a little layer of this, but because I'm not an expert in any of this, but one of the other discussions that really is kind of taking over a lot of these overall planning discussions, and I saw this at ULI, and I think we're going to continue to see this, is AI. And how is AI going to impact the analysis pieces to what we could anticipate moving forward? I certainly am not, again, not an expert at all, but I know that this is something that is being looked at quite a lot. And how this integrates is, I think, just similar to our discussion about technology. We don't know yet how that impact is going to be there, but we know that it's out there. So.
Yeah, great comments. Anything else? Shay, thank you so much. My only comment would be to you is please feed this. You'll certainly get a lot of comments from a lot of people, I hope. Send them through Ted, you or Andrew, but if we're aware of the emerging technologies, it puts us in a much better place, okay, and for us to be able to help manage to that. And I think, to Mayor, your point, if we got to establish policies, we have to look at the impacts to the people. Who better than the people in this room to help make that and carry that message, and more importantly, educate? To do that effectively, I think we have to be educated ourselves. And if you're the conduit, okay, to help us in this process, we can take your message, take your information to all the people we involved in, all the other mayors who are not here, and certainly the council, to make these kinds of things become reality for us. And I think that makes a big difference. So thank you so much. Please, my invitation would be is speak often as you see things changing. We need to know about it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have a big action item today. We appreciate this, and I get really excited personally, obviously, about stationary planning certifications. We'll now consider certification requests for stationary areas for West Jordan, Draper, and Taylorsville in accordance with the stationary planning program that you've been aware of. We'll also welcome representatives from each community. Let me just point them out if I know. Mayor Oberson, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Mayor Walker, thank you for being with us. And certainly Senator Harper, I know you'll be putting on two hats today, but we appreciate you coming and joining us in terms as we celebrate also with Taylorsville in terms of this great achievement. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Brian and go ahead and lead us in this conversation. Thank you.
Before Byron jumps in here, I just wanted to note, so we're going to do these alphabetical order: Draper, Taylorsville, West Jordan.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ted. And hello, RGC. Today, it's pretty simple. We got 3 stationary plans from 3 cities covering 5 different stations on 2 different UTA modes of service. So we've been doing this for a little while now, And, so I'll breeze through kind of the objectives and requirements of the plans. You can find all of that and more on our website. There's a link on the bottom of the slide here. But I do want to take a moment and highlight these great graphics that were included as part of the Draper Stationary Plan for Town Center. And so I'll just jump straight into our progress report and then to the projects themselves. So where are we at so far? We have, as of today, certified 38 station area plans. This is including both us and MAG, but I'll let you in on a secret, 37 of those have been us. And then we have 5 submitted today for certification, and then 48 that are in progress, and then the rest are making their way through the process. So first up, we have Draper Town Center. This is the southern end of the blue line, and it serves Draper's historic downtown and their city hall. As has been noted, we have Mayor Walker and several of his key staff here today. So I'd like to invite Mayor Walker to say a few words about this project. Either or.
Well, I'm definitely excited to be here for this. This particular area is not our only track station. It's one of 2, but it's the area where we've planned first. And I have a really good story about this. I was on the original UTA Board of Trustees for a number of years, so I am a transit advocate. I always have been. I love transit. Other than a subway experience Hugh put me through a couple of weeks ago, I really like transit. And I've loved tracks and front running.
Not here in New
Not
York
here.
City.
Yeah, not here.
I don't know what his issue is, but yeah.
But I was a council member in August of 2023 or 2013 when we cut the ribbon on this station. And of course, we were a lot smaller then. I went to Alta High School, graduated in '85. That makes me 40 years out. But Draper was about 4,800, 5,000 people then. And so now we're, 50,000. But in 2013, we weren't 50,000, and it was new. I knocked doors campaigning as a council member on behalf of and for transit. It was very interesting to have people say, we don't want the train. I'm like, yeah, you do. You really do. But when we got it, we were at the ribbon cutting, and I was sitting next to Senator Orrin Hatch, Speaker Greg Hughes, Governor Herbert. I was in the middle between Hughes and Hatch. And I got to know Orrin a little bit, and I loved Orrin, and he was a transit advocate, so I really liked it. And we were there, and I was getting to speak at this because I was a council member and a UTA board member, and I was all excited, and I was nervous as hell. And I'm sitting, and Orrin Hatch leans over to me, and I just bought this nice pair of riding glasses, mountain biking glasses. I thought they were cool. They were multiple lenses. I liked them. And I was wearing them, and Hatch leans over to me right before I'm about to speak. He goes, you got to get another set of glasses. Those are hideous. And I looked at him, and Hughes and Governor Herbert, they start chuckling. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, those glasses are terrible. I wouldn't wear those. How could you be wearing? And I'm like 2 minutes from getting up to speak. So I took them off, and I wish I would have left them on, but I still have them. I found them the other day, and they are actually kind of ugly by modern standards, but I always appreciated Senator Hatch. And every time I see him after that, he said, do you still have those glasses? And I'm like, yeah. But this stationary plan is a big deal for us because this kicks off our town center. You can see sort of to the left of the image that our city hall's up the top of the image on the left side. And this sort of ties it all together. We're looking at over 500 units, 55,000 square feet of commercial retail opportunity with UTA's parcel, which is right above the current station. Right in the middle is the IFA, and it's the old IFA from the farming days. And it's cool. It sits there. It's got the grain silos. It still takes delivery. But we think it really sets off and kicks off what stationary plans should be. People, have different opinions of it, but as you look at the future and what this can be, I remember one of the comments in one of the meetings we had was, well, this station isn't very well used. This isn't a good place for it. And I remember saying, that's precisely why we're going to make it well used. We're going to create a spot that enhances our community, that makes it a really great place to live and a great place to commute from and all those things. So this stationary plan means a lot to us. We've been working on it a long time. I go back to advocating for light rail and front runner in my community all those years ago, and how interesting it's been for people to get used to it. Now you can effectively move around, and with the double tracking, all those things that we're doing in Utah, we're making our system amazing. And as we become more amazing and more usable, these nodes, I think, are truly going to become where people want to live. At least I hope so. I think it's a great future for us. So anyway, I am very happy that we're here to present to you. We are excited about it. We look forward. We have 2 more coming before the deadline, I promise. But one of them's another light rail line and one of them's front runner. So you're going to see us again. But again, thank you for your time, and it's been a great experience.
Mayor Walker and every one of the communities that has done or is doing a station area plan could tell lots of stories about how challenging it is and how much work it takes. And so I just want to acknowledge that, getting stakeholders together to develop the plan that is right for your community for the future is not easy work, but it's really, really important work. And Mayor Walker and I have had some fun conversations about that, and I just want to commend him for it.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So you have all the necessary information in your packets, including the certification submission form from the city, the plan itself, the staff review of it, and the draft resolution. So staff has reviewed this and put forward a positive recommendation to the Regional Growth Committee that the Regional Growth Committee recommend to the council to certify. So with that being said, I'll turn it back to Chair Dandoy for any discussion.
Thank you. Any comments, questions before I ask for a motion? Please, Trustee.
Just briefly, to Mayor Walker's point and Andrew's point, I had the privilege of being part of that subcommittee over a couple of years and watching the evolutionary process as the community got to a consensus point. And I think the plan's a great reflection of that effort and will certainly be strengthen that town center concept around their municipal and community locations.
Good comments. Thank you. Okay.
One more.
Hearing more?
One more comment.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
So as Sandy and Draper have evolved so much in tandem, setting community standards, it's really important to not mirror, but tailor the mood as you move down the tracks experience and to create the housing, the retail, and the scalability. So as you hit the suburban centers, you maintain that community feel, and this plan really has done that, and it's very aligned with what we're doing in the region. So it's really nice to work with communities that share that same vision for tailoring a suitable transit growth plan for its own community. So commend you, Mayor Walker.
Yeah, thank you. Great comment. Anybody else like to make comment? Please, Trustee.
So as I'm sitting here, like, I'm remembering vividly the time that I announced this in the Commission on Housing Affordability. And I remember distinctly Andrew and Cameron, and then Representative Waldrop, and how much this has really evolved. And it's so incredibly valuable, I think, not only from UTA's perspective, and certainly from, the regional perspectives, but I just think about how much better you now, as a collective community, understand your community's needs, understand what they see as a value add to this type of infrastructure investment. It's going to be transformational, and it is done in an environment that is getting all of this input and trying to get to that yes, if you will. And so I'm just so excited to see how this has evolved, and it was just an incredible experience, and I'm so glad that we are here today. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The great comments. Okay, Mayor Walker, I'm going to put you on the spot, but we certainly would welcome you if you'd like to make a motion and read that for us, and we can begin the process.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd like to move and to recommend the certification of the Draper Town Center Station Area Plan to the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Thank you. We have a motion then. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mayor. We have a second. Any comments, questions? Perfect. Okay, all in favor of recommend certification, okay, of this particular stationary plan, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, your certification is recommended for approval. Go to the council, I believe, next week. Thank you.
Thank you all and appreciate all your good work.
Please.
All right, next up, we have the Taylorsville Expressway Stationary Plan. This is one plan for 3 different stations that are currently under construction on the upcoming MVX line. This is the only segment on that line that has, dedicated bus lanes and therefore required to do a stationary plan. And we have Mayor Overson here, as well as been noted, several key members of her staff that worked on this plan. I'd like to now invite Mayor Overson for her comments.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here as a committee member and as mayor of the city of Taylorsville to brag a little bit about this great plan. Many years in the making and many fingers in the pot. I believe the theme of this meeting, what I hear, Ted, is what you so eloquently said, is spirit of collaboration. And this certainly reflects that. As the leader of Team Taylorsville, I'm excited. Every leader knows that you assemble a good team around you and then you step aside and you let them work. So I'm really excited to ask our Community and Economic Development Director, Wayne Harper, and our Long Range Planner, Mark McGrath. You can take the stage and just, if you'll say a few words about this awesome plan.
I, being a shy and retiring individual, never grab a microphone. I just want to thank Mayor Overson and the council, our city council, for catching this vision and working with city staff to get this done. This has been a long-term effort on everybody's part. Mark McGrath has worked with all the consultants, especially with UTA and with Wasatch Front Regional Council. They have led on this and we partnered up and done a very good thing. Now, I am not going to apologize with the fact that this is a very long stationary plan that you've had the ability and opportunity to read. We've combined 3 of them together because they overlap and I think we've got a great vision. Mark will go and explain everything, but I'm going to put to bed a statement that I have heard many, many times too often. When the legislature passes a bill, they do not know what the impact nor the work that it has caused upon the people who have to comply with it. I've had to live with a bill that I've had a hand in crafting, and I said, it is working well. So thank you. Mark?
Thank you. This process was very exciting and interesting for us because we have literally been working on this bus rapid transit improvement for about 16 years now. So to have it to this point where we're taking a very close look, a very close analysis of impact and benefit on the community has been very enjoyable for us. We approach this effort very much from an aspirational perspective in that we wanted to create not only a place where people could live, but a place where people wanted to live. So we placed a lot of emphasis on quality of life type of issues and transit-oriented development design type of issues. We also had the benefit of where we were fortunate to have the timing of that. We're also concurrently working on a comprehensive update of our general plan in Taylorsville. So we were able to integrate the concepts and the ideas and the objectives of this plan throughout our general plan. So it's very much has its fingerprints in our economic development element, our housing element, our land use element, our parks and recreation element, our transportation element. So it's very much ingrained in our overall general plan. We obviously don't have time to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the plan. However, the graphic here illustrates that we will, the estimates of our land use estimates are that we will be able to have about 5,644 dwelling units in this study area, which is over 240 acres, comes out about 43 units per acre over the full 240 acres, which is about 4,400 more dwelling units than exist there now, which is pretty shocking for a place like Taylorsville, which is and has been about 100% built out for over a decade now. So to produce that level of housing in this size of an area is, I think, pretty amazing. And then I'll also just point out one, what I think is a great design feature of the plan, which is this linear park, which extends through the entire study area, that extends all the way from what is currently the Four Lakes Golf Course there on the left, all the way a little over a mile long to the Jordan River Parkway, integrating the Jordan River Parkway, which is of course a great regional spine of our regional trail network, into this study area. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell. We're very happy to have this over. It was a tremendous amount of work, as we've heard. But I don't know if there are any questions for any of us.
Any questions? Please, trustee.
Yeah, we've been excited to work, and as Mark has pointed out, Taylorsville has weathered a long storm to get us to this point, but the project itself is on time. And in fact, yesterday in our board meeting, we approved a change order. We've made so many utility cuts and disruptions to this particular length of road that we approved a change order to go back and put a new layer over it and clean it up as part of that community effort. But it, within a short duration, it'll be primed for the development as it naturally occurs and as the community wants. But we're excited, hopefully, to have a new system here in the very near future.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll
Please.
just add, Mark talked about housing critically. Every one of these station areas, every one of these station area plans contemplates and is designed, at least in part, to help address the housing challenge that we have in our state. And the point that you made, Mark, that Taylorsville is largely built out, and yet with transportation enhancements, you're able to provide more housing options within your community, designed in a way, as Mayor Overson said, that's really going to provide wonderful places, more wonderful places in Taylorsville for your community. Overall, the governor has identified a goal in his Built Here strategic plan of having 150,000 new housing units in Utah underway in his second term. And within that, he's also identified a sub-goal of having 40,000 of those units be in identified city or town centers, as we talked about at the beginning of this meeting. And these station area plans and the Housing and Transit Reinvestment Zone tool that Senator Harper created are all aimed at helping with that subset of addressing the housing challenge. So greenfield development for housing, suburban development, and then infill and redevelopment. And in this case, particularly coordinated with transit. So it's just part of the overall strategy that Utah has to address our growth and housing challenges. And it's all the hard work at the local level to actually make it a reality. So nice work.
Can I do a super quick add-on onto this? I think this tells a great story of what happens regionally when this kind of stuff happens. And as Mark put it, one of our best planners in the state, by the way. But as Mark put it, these are cool places. This is going to be a really cool set of locations in Taylorsville that are just going to be really fun and interesting.
Yeah, great comments. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Please.
Just a quick question. And I can see in your submission packet, and yes, quite the variety of housing options there. But that also you had indicated that some of would be for rent and some for sale. Do you have a percentage of what you think would be owner occupied?
Well, no, we don't
Or a
know.
goal?
It's very much our objective to have as much owner occupied as possible. Based on our economic analysis, our economic analysis team, they said there's probably going to be a lot less to begin with. Based on, their point was people are willing to invest in a neighborhood when the amenities are there. Before the amenities are there, more people are more likely to want to rent. And so as the parks are built, streetscapes are developed, walkability is improved, that's when people are going to be willing to invest their own money, and buy. But we want it to be as high of a percentage as possible. understanding that it's probably going to be mostly rental units in the area, especially in the kind of the core areas adjacent to the stations.
Understandable with the market the way it is and a great plan. Do you have any that you're planning to deed restrict to ensure owner occupancy?
We likely will. We don't have a strict plan. We've identified that as a priority in the plan, but until you have, until you're a little bit farther along the development process, it's kind of difficult to have, very specific objectives or.
Thank you.
numbers.
Looking forward to seeing this come up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just have a
great questions. Thank
follow-up
you.
question there too, because that was so great to learn that. And I just don't know the answer to this, but I've wondered this question before. In current Utah law, how long can properties be deed restricted for that low income? I just don't know the answer. Do we know? Can there be 30-year deed restriction? Can there be endless deed restriction? I don't know the answer to that.
I've seen deed restrictions go as little as 10 years. The most common are 20 to 30. I have seen one group that's looking at 50.
Okay, learned something new. Thank you for the comment and question. That was perfect. Both of those was very helpful. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay. Hiram, you want to continue?
Yeah, thank you, Team Taylorsville. Again, all the necessary information is in your packet. Staff has reviewed this request and found it fulfills the requirements and objectives of the legislation. And, I even heard someone at ETA say this is their favorite SAP plan they've seen to date. So staff is making a positive recommendation to RGC. No one in this room, but staff is making a positive recommendation. So I'll turn it back to the chair.
Oh, thank you. Great comment, except the last part. I'm going to ask, Mayor, would you like to take the lead and offer a motion?
Please, I excitedly, proudly move to recommend the certification of the Taylorsville Expressway BRT Station Area Plan to the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, then the motion to approve this stationary plan, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Mayor, we're going to recommend that the council approve your stationary plan. Thank you. Byron, one more.
Last one, last but certainly not least, we have 5600 West Old Bingham Highway, tracks on the red line. This station is currently surrounded by a lot of industrial uses, but the city has a pretty exciting vision for what it could become in terms of a western gateway to the city. I know Mayor Burton wishes he could be here both for this exciting plan and also because it's our office bike to work day and we'd love to give him a bagel. But he is unfortunately not here, but we have senior planner Taylor Jensen, who is the city project manager here. So I'd like to invite Taylor up to the podium to speak about this plan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not Mayor Burton. I know I'll do a poor job replacing him. He's irreplaceable, but he's been a great support on this, as has Byron with WFRC, and Valerie Williams with UTA has been a great support on this. When Byron says this is an industrial site, he's not joking. It's very encumbered by utilities, both gas, power, there's water out there. Very narrow 2-lane road that doesn't even have curb and gutter. When we updated our general plan last year, we actually envisioned this to just continue as an industrial area, which is a little bit shocking when you think about downtown Daybreak is half a mile away from here, as is the B Stadium. So with the stationary plan, we've really completely re-envisioned this whole quadrant of our city. We're using Old Bingham Highway. We'll kind of separate what is industrial to the north, where we have SME still. We're going to be adding bike lanes to that, buffered bike lanes, pedestrian paths on that south side, and kind of defining the area of that point south would be more of a new city center. We're looking at creating a walkable core around the track station, but also an entertainment district. And so what you'll see in this plan is a true multimodal station, as this is where the new 5600 West bus line will have a terminus, which will have access directly to Salt Lake City International Airport and Salt Lake Central Station. We also think that if Kennecott ever decides to develop Copperton, this would be a great place to link out to Copperton from as well. But we also look at this being a true mixed-use center. We have 315,000 square feet of office planned here. Of retail, 1.2 million square feet of office, 600,000 square feet of entertainment, 1,200 hotel rooms, 3,000 dwelling units, 6,000 shared parking sites, and something that we actually are pretty excited about is D, you'll see right here, is a 100,000 square foot industrial building, which we are hoping that will help us facilitate a land transfer between UTA and Jordan School District to relocate their operation center out of the heart of West Jordan, which would allow us to make progress on our other stationary plan, which we adopted last year in West Jordan City Center by opening that up for development. So we're really excited about this. We're excited about the vision this brings, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Any questions, comments? Please, trustee.
What the other comment I would make is, and interestingly enough, the city of South Jordan also part of, as they were bringing a road through this particular area and working with Rocky Mountain Power and the relocation of some power lines to make sure that some developable land would exist around the track station. And really, it's a reflection in this longer term commitment and vision about how communities work together and finding, an amicable solution. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Ted, go ahead.
I am just reflecting on how different the three are from each other and how in their own way, each is exemplary based on the context and the pre-existing uses. And, this is the kind of plan that I think we would take around the region and we'd say, this is how you do TOD in an industrial area. I think it's fantastic.
Great comment. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Byron, you'd like to lead us?
All right, one more time. You have all the necessary information in your meeting materials, including the certification submission form, the plan itself, draft resolution, and staff report. Staff has reviewed and forwarded a positive recommendation to the Regional Growth Committee to recommend to council that this plan be certified. So I will once again turn it over to Chair Dandoy for any additional discussion and a vote.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, as you have said and recognized, we've done this a few times. I always invite the mayor if they would consider this one. Unfortunately, the mayor is not here. But I would like to then entertain a motion then to move to recommendation. Who would like to offer that?
So,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
since I can never vote, but Andrew says I can do motions.
Okay.
I'm proud of West Jordan and all of you, and I move to recommend to the full board the certification of the 5600 West Old Bingham Highway Station Area Plan to the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
As a fellow hat wearer, I'm going to stand with Mayor Burton and I'll second that.
That's perfect. Thank you. We have a second. Any comments, questions? Okay, all in favor then to approve the stationary plan for this location, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion is approved. Okay, we'll make the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, can I offer one brief concluding thought here? First of all, as noted, all of these will be presented to the full Wasatch Front Regional Council next Thursday. Our meeting's at 1:30. We will have an abbreviated discussion at that meeting. This is where we go into detail. So we'll do that in an abbreviated fashion at that meeting. And I also want to note just how much we love the fact that we get to work with and help the communities to do this. And I know this goes for UTA as well. We, for a long time at WFRC, have had our TLC, our Transportation and Land Use Connection program that's funded jointly by WFRC, UTA, UDOT, Salt Lake County, support from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. We also have our station area planning program, which sort of overlaps with TLC, that there's funding that comes via GOYO for that. And our team gets to bring consultants in to help the communities. Our team gets to roll up their sleeves and work directly with the communities, and we just love it. We love being able to work with you and support you and have these great things happening in your community. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Great comments. As I close this particular discussion and move to our last bit, let me just make one real quick comment. First thing is that I can remember when we started down the path of establishing stationary plans. I remember that a few weeks ago. And this, Senator, I'm going to tell you, okay, we heard you. The legislators spoke, and we heard, and we got excited. We really did. For a little place I can speak of in Roy, we got excited. And I think we were number 3 in getting ours done, and we were excited about that. But Senator, if I can ask one favor. At the close of business on Thursday, sir, we're going to have 43 of these stationary plans done, okay? It's important that we share that message with our legislators, that when they do speak, we do listen, and we do everything we can to make it happen. So we're excited for this. Congratulations for those who were awarded that opportunity today. I'm sure it's going to be a favorable vote when we meet next Thursday. Thank you, Andrew, for your comments. Before I close, let me just make a point, if I can. The Wasatch Front is updating the Regional Growth Committee page on their new website to include members' photos. So Rosie will be sending out an email to begin gathering those photos, so please keep an eye out for it, okay? We'll look forward to seeing that, and if she asks us to provide a photo, please forward that to her. With that, any comments or questions before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm part of, in looking at some of these and then exploring a little bit of those options, deed restriction, but just curious if there were any other commissioners here or anybody who'd be interested in maybe having a presentation or some research on converting rental units to owner occupancy, looking at deed restrictions and what, incentives there might be that we could try to incentivize owner occupancy and just here along the Wasatch Front. I don't know if there's any.
That's an interesting.
I would love it.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure more things out, especially with the governor's goal, which I think is a shared goal by all of us, right? So yeah, the more we can understand, the better.
Yeah, I think it's a great request. This certainly is an educational moment, and anytime we have these kinds of opportunities to learn, and I learned from this meeting today, we surely should expand on that if we can learn more. So I think it's a great request. I'll turn it to Ted and Andrew. Is that something we might be able to help try to provide some clarification information on? And we'll look at that.
And we take direction from the committee, and so if that's of interest, we'll queue it up.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I will note that WFRC is not in of itself a housing agency. So you'll note when we talk about housing, we're always talking about the intersection with transportation. That's not to say we can't have the discussion you're noting, but I also would put a plug in for the League of Cities and Towns and the work that they do in this space as well. So we might be able to coordinate something with them on that as well. Okay?
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Councilmember, thank you for the comment, because to be honest with you, that's the kind of dialogues we like to have here. So thank you for sharing your ideas. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just,
Please.
I'm just wondering
Trustee?
if we could maybe, because your point is extremely important that WFRC and MAG are not housing agencies, but I think that the Commission on Housing Affordability maybe could have some potential input for that as well, or at least a participation piece. I think that it would be really valuable for everyone to kind of understand where that's going and what we're trying to accomplish in that arena. Because there are a lot of components to how we're going to navigate this. Part of it is those individual communities and what they've focused on, but also the greater growth challenges. So just wanted to put that out there.
And one more thing from me, but the Utah Association of Counties and the League of Cities and Towns Like, it's very important that there's a great relationship between those two organizations. And the more that we can promote that, I think helps all common initiatives. Yes.
It's always a challenge to set up an agenda for this body because it meets 5 times, 2-hour meeting. It's a mix of, we've got action items and we're also discussion items. And here's where I'm headed and what I'm wondering. What if we set up like a lunchtime webinar, and then we were able to do a deeper dive? And we get some experts that relate to this topic, and we actually really do it a fair amount of time so that we can really focus on it. We would share that with the RGC that day and time, but then we also can spread the word.
I think that would be exceptional. I'm learning more information about this, and I think just that awareness to it and where we're headed, and that little bit of that housing crisis. So that would be wonderful, and inviting, connecting with a lot of those other organizations as well.
Yeah, thank you. Great suggestion. Thank you much. Anything else we'd like to talk before we ask for a motion? Okay, hearing none, seeing none then. Do I have a motion then to adjourn? Ooh, thank you. Okay. Do I have a second? Thank you. I got 2. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. We are adjourned. Our next meeting will be August 21st, 2025 at 9:15. Thank you for joining us today.
It's sustainable, right?